then when I got inside, there were probably 10 to 15 other women there already. And they represented every socioeconomic class, every age, every race. I waited in the waiting room and just looked at all the faces, and there was this distinct lack of emotion in the room. And I just remember sitting there and watching the morning news and thinking how terrible this place felt and how just dead the whole room and the whole atmosphere felt. And they have you do a sonogram before you go in to have the actual procedure done, because they have to know how far along you are and they have to know where everything's at. And when they did the sonogram, I distinctly remember thinking, do not look at the monitor. Whatever you do, don't look at the monitor. Just pretend like this isn't happening. Go to your happy place. And, you know, she printed off the picture, stapled it into my folder, and handed it to me. I opened up my folder because curiosity got the better of me, and I remember standing there in line and looking at the picture and pulling my phone out of my pocket and wanting so bad to call my parents. But I couldn't bring myself to do that. I was so scared to tell them where I was. I was so ashamed. And so I got to the front of the line and I paid my money, and I sat down and I waited for my name to be called to go to the what they call a counseling session. And the counseling session is a joke. They let you ask questions, but most of the questions they kind of deflect, and they tell you everything's going to be fine, and that, you know, oh, all your morning sickness will be gone, and you'll feel 100% better, and you'll be back to normal by the end of the day. And they make it sound like, you know, it's just not a big deal. They never use terms like baby. They never use terms like fetus. They always say the tissue. And they really do a really good job of smoke and mirrors to cover up the reality of what's happening. And then they have you sit in a waiting room and wait to have your name called to go to the procedure room. And I was sitting there, and it was a Saturday morning, and they had a TV on in there, and it was playing Saturday morning cartoons, like Strawberry Shortcake and My Little Pony and things like that. And I remember sitting there and thinking how cruel and how sick it was that they were showing Saturday morning cartoons in that room, and all of us were there to kill our babies. When they called my name, I was so grateful to not be in that room anymore. And then once I got to the actual procedure room, I just wanted to not be there at all. They have you lay down on a table, of course, and the place I went to didn't use anesthetic. I was completely awake for the whole procedure. All I had was laughing gas, the same kind of gas they give you for getting a cavity pulled. And the nurse that was doing the laughing gas held my hand the whole time. And she's the one thing out of that day I'm grateful for, because she really kept me calm, and she held my hand and rubbed my hand, and she really treated me like a person, because everybody else there kind of herded you around from room to room, and the doctor didn't even get my name right. He kept calling me by my middle name. They did the lidocaine to numb everything up, and then they started the procedure, and it was so painful. And I don't know that it was actually the physical pain or if it was more just the emotional pain and the guilt and everything else, but it was terrible. It was something I still have nightmares about. Sometimes I have nightmares about the procedure, and I know a lot of women tend to block out everything that happened and they don't remember, you know, the procedure and the room and everything, but I remember every detail. And it was terrible. And then after everything was over with, the nurse helps you put your underwear back on, and she helps you stand up, and she walked me back to the recovery room, which was the room full of recliners. And then they gave me ginger ale and graham crackers to kind of settle my stomach. I had to eat it before I left. And I just sat there and, you know, sipped on my ginger ale, and I just was weeping. I could not get over what I had just done. and you have just this rush of hormones, and you know, your hormones are leaving your body, hormones are trying to regulate themselves out, and I was just sobbing. And the nurse actually walked up to me and told me that I needed to calm down. She said, "You're going to upset the other girls. You need to be strong for the other girls."